The dying light of Xeran Station. The stars were dying over Xeran Station. Crimson arcs of energy pulsed across the battered defense grid, illuminating the once proud orbital bastion in a funeral glow. Every impact from the Varkari fleet sent tremors down the spinal corridors of the station, shaking dust from shattered bulkheads and ripping holes through shielded layers that had once been deemed impenetrable. Commander Rovek of the Zalari Confederacy stood in the central command dome, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. It was a mess of red markers, each one a Varkari vessel closing in. Blue indicators, friendly ships, flickered and vanished by the second. The fleet was dissolving. Section 9's gone silent, rasped the Athery comms officer, its crystalline body pulsing with violet stress glow. No survivors detected. They breached the inner ring. Rovek's mandibles clenched. Seal the inner conduits. Divert fusion core power to shields. I want those reactors online until the last breath of this station. Across the room, Droka warriors growled low and guttural, their claws twitching against the grips of their magnet blades. Even the stoic Krith, insectoid strategists who rarely displayed emotion, moved with an unsettling restlessness. The Varkari Dominion wasn't just invading, they were purging the sector. Rovek had fought them for decades. The Dominion was the nightmare behind every war table. Efficient, remorseless, relentless. They didn't negotiate. They didn't accept surrender. They consumed systems whole, leaving behind scorched atmospheres and bones. The Alliance had once been strong, united under shared fear and hope. But that hope had died when the humans vanished. The Terran Alliance, the last fire in the void, as the Krith called them. A species of defiant primitives who arrived late to the stars and punched far above their technological weight. Brash, savage, terrifyingly effective, and now extinct. 30 cycles ago, during the Valkon Rift War, the Terrans had flung their fleet into the maw of a gravitational anomaly to stop a Varkari armada. No signals had come since. No wreckage. No escape pods. Just silence. Space had swallowed them. And without them, the war turned. One by one, systems fell. The Varkari returned with new weapons, stronger hulls, and no mercy. The defenders of Xeran Station were now all that stood between the Dominion and the ancient core worlds of the ether expanse. And they were losing. An explosion rocked the command dome. Emergency klaxons shrieked. A technician screamed as a console erupted in fire. "They've breached Dock 6, someone shouted. Rovek tapped his personal comm, his voice calm despite the chaos. "Activate last stand protocols. Prepare to jettison the reactor cores if overrun." A silence fell after the order. Everyone in the dome understood what that meant. No help is coming. The words weren't said aloud, but they haunted every mind. Even the Krith officers' clicking mandibles slowed. The Athery pulsed dim. "We are the last, Commander. There is no reinforcement. No surviving sector fleets. There is no—" A deep tremor rolled through the floor. Not an explosion. Not an impact. Something else. Was that? Began a Droka Major, but the station's long-range sensors suddenly surged to life, bathing the command dome in blue light. "An anomaly," the Athery shouted. "Distortion field at the edge of the system. Gravitational readings spiking." "Visual," Rovek snapped. The main screen shifted. Stars warped. Light bent inward like a spiral wound too tight. From the abyss of space, a black wound tore open against the stars, and from it came the roar. It wasn't sound, not really, not in the vacuum, but every being on the station felt it, in their skulls, in their chests, in their very bones. A howl that reverberated across subspace frequencies, like a beast emerging from 1,000 years of slumber. The distortion expanded. A vessel emerged, massive, angular, like a blade made of nightmares and dark matter. Its hull shimmered with abyssal plating that devoured light. Blue-white energy thrusters flared behind it like twin novas. It bore no markings, and yet every species present recognized the shape instantly. "Impossible," someone whispered. Rovek stepped closer to the screen. His voice, for the first time in years, cracked. "A Terran warship. The room fell silent. The vessel turned slightly, revealing a row of heavy dorsal cannons unlike any previously seen in the galaxy. The ship broadcast an open hail across all frequencies. A voice followed, calm, human, and thunderously clear. This is the TSS Obsidian Requiem Terran Abyss Fleet. To any surviving Allied forces, hold your positions. Reinforcements have arrived. The silence shattered in an instant. Cheers, screams, crystalline resonance harmonies, Droka howls, Krith limbs clattered in reverence. The humans had returned, and they came roaring from the abyss. Roaring from the abyss. The TSS Obsidian Requiem moved like a ghost through firelight, silent, unstoppable, cloaked in deep black plating that shimmered like liquid night. To the defenders of Xeran Station, it seemed less a warship and more a myth forged into steel. But for the Varkari, it was something far worse, an unknown. The Dominion fleet hesitated for the first time in the campaign. Their data swarms ran predictions, threat assessments, energy readouts, but none of it made sense. This ship was not in any records. Its energy profile was erratic, impossibly dense. It should have collapsed under its own mass. But it moved with purpose. And then, without warning, it struck. A dozen pinpricks of light appeared along its broadside. Void pulse cannons discharged in synchronized rhythm, firing slugs of compressed gravitational matter. Each shot warped reality for a fraction of a second, then obliterated a Varkari frigate as if it had never existed. No heat, no explosion, just erasure. From Xeran Station, Commander Rovek watched in stunned silence. The alien crew murmured in disbelief as Dominion ships vanished one by one. "Those weapons," muttered the Athery comms officer, its crystal skin pulsing erratically. "That's not Terran tech. Not standard issue. Not anything we know." Rovek didn't respond. His eyes were locked on the human ship. There was something off about it, something evolved. Inside the Obsidian Requiem, Captain Lena Voss stood on her command deck with arms crossed, face unreadable. Her hair was pulled tight in a regulation knot, though no regulation remained. The old insignias had long since been burned away, replaced by one simple mark etched onto the obsidian alloy bulkhead, a spiral within a spiral, the emblem of the Abyss Fleet. 30 years ago, she and her crew had flown into the heart of a collapsing gravity well to stop the Varkari's advance. They hadn't died. Not exactly. They had fallen. Through space. Through time. Through something else. "We're getting a lot of traffic from Xeran Station," reported Lieutenant Reyes. "They want to know how the hell we're alive." Voss's voice was low. "Later. Right now, we burn a hole through these bastards." Reyes grinned. "Welcome back, humanity." "Focus," Voss said sharply. "Initiate the Dark Crown maneuver. Bring the Black Lance cannons online. Target the Dominion command cruiser." At the rear of the bridge, the AI core pulsed, its voice sliding into the room like smoke. "Confirmed. Deploying singularity weaponry. Shall I make it memorable?" Voss allowed a ghost of smile. "Terrifying will do." Out in space, the Dominion's flagship, a leviathan of armored carapace and living metal, shifted to engage. It launched gravity mines and swarm missiles toward the Obsidian Requiem. The human ship didn't evade. It ate the attack. A ripple of energy expanded outward from the Requiem's hull, swallowing the incoming swarm. Inside the distortion, matter unraveled, converted, reformed. In place of the mines came a barrage of Black Lance beams, searing, needle-thin projections of event horizon energy. The Dominion flagship cracked open like an egg. On Xeran Station, alien commanders gaped in awe. Krith tacticians clicked excitedly. Droka soldiers pounded armored chests in salute. The Athery whispered that they went into the abyss, and they returned with its fire. Back aboard the Requiem, Captain Voss sat at her station, eyes scanning the remaining Varkari ships. Most were scattering now, their cohesion broken, their formation shattered. She tapped into the system-wide comms. "To all surviving Allied vessels, we are initiating fleet reinforcement maneuvers. If you can fly, follow our signal. If you can fight, stay in our shadow. We are humanity, and this war isn't over. Across the system, battered cruisers, gunships, and fighters stirred. Ships that had been hiding, fleeing, or running silent now reactivated their drives and followed the beacon of the Terran dreadnought. Hope, once buried, rose again in steel and fire. On the Varkari command frequency, chaos erupted. The high strategist howled orders to retreat, unable to comprehend the ship's weaponry. Dozens of Dominion captains broke formation without clearance. A singular Terran warship had done what no fleet had managed in years. It broke the fear. In the heart of the Requiem, down in the sealed abyss core chamber, something pulsed. An orb of swirling black energy floated inside a magnetic cage, alive with shifting geometries, flickering impossible colors. It was the source of their survival, the cost of their return. The abyss had given them tools, but it had watched them too. Captain Voss entered the chamber alone, placing one hand on the reinforced glass. Not yet, she murmured to the thing inside. Soon, but not yet. Behind her, the Requiem soared toward the next battle. From the command deck of Xeran Station, Rovek spoke what the entire Alliance now understood. They didn't come back as they were. They came back, changed. And with that change came the single greatest weapon the galaxy had forgotten to fear. Humanity. We remember everything. The war room aboard Xeran Station flickered to life with newly restored power. Alien officers from 3 dying civilizations stood shoulder to shoulder, watching the unfolding data from the edge of the system. Dozens of Varkari vessels were breaking formation, fleeing deeper into the void, pursued by a single black warship that moved like judgment incarnate. Commander Rovek stood at the center of the chamber, his clawed hands resting on the tactical holomap. He had seen many strange things in his long service, but none like this. They are routing the entire southern flank by themselves, the Krith strategist rasped in disbelief. It's not just their weapons, murmured the Athari. It's the way they fight. No hesitation, no mercy. Rovek turned toward the comms platform, established direct contact with the Terran vessel. Already hailing, Commander, the Droka officer confirmed. They're requesting a secure line. Rovek nodded. The transmission came through a second later, visual only. Captain Lena Voss's image flickered into view. Her face was lined, her eyes steel. Not just a commander, something colder, older, forged by something the rest of the galaxy had never touched. Commander Rovek, she said. You're still alive. Rovek blinked. You know me? Voss gave a small nod. You were at the third front during the Valkon Rift. I remember your voice over subspace when the evac transports failed. I remember that day, Rovek said, his voice low. I remember your fleet diving into the anomaly. We assumed it destroyed you. Her tone sharpened. It nearly did. There was a silence. Then she leaned in slightly. But we survived. And in the place we landed, time was broken. Dead civilizations whispered from the edges of dimensions. We adapted. We rebuilt. And now, she paused. We remember everything the Dominion did while we were gone. Every genocide. Every species they broke. Every ally left to die. Rovek glanced at the Krith beside him, who shivered visibly under her gaze. Are you here to save us? The Krith asked. No, Voss replied, blunt as a blade. We're here to end them. Hours later, a massive projection of the Allied sectors lit up the entire command chamber. Rovek stood beside Captain Voss, now physically aboard Xeran Station with a small team of Abyss Fleet operatives. Each wore sleek, pitch-black armor laced with glowing violet seams, strange symbols etched into the plating like runes carved in voidstone. One of her soldiers, a quiet, pale human named Rail, moved like a wraith between terminals, interfacing directly with the station's damaged systems. This station has 3 working artillery batteries left, he muttered. We'll integrate them with Requiem's targeting matrix. You'll be able to hit anything we light up. Even through cloaks? Asked a stunned Droka officer. Rail gave a short nod. Even through time shift fields. No one asked how they had learned that. The plan was brutal in its elegance. The Requiem would lead a deep strike maneuver against the Varkari staging base on the edge of the Othan Nebula, where the Dominion's forward logistics and command personnel had dug in. The combined alien remnants would flank the base while the Requiem drove straight through its center. The Allies had doubted the feasibility. Then they watched the Terrans vaporize a destroyer with a single lance of folding gravity. No one doubted after that. As the assault began, Captain Voss stood once more on her bridge. Her hands rested on the cold edge of the forward viewport, eyes focused on the battle ahead. "Time to send a message," she said. "Broadcasting," Reyes confirmed. Voss spoke into the open galaxy-wide channel. "To the Varkari Dominion. This is Captain Lena Voss of the Abyss Fleet, Terran Alliance. We remember everything. We remember the Etris culling, the burning of Senvar, the extermination fleets sent to our colonies after we fell into the rift. We remember your laughter, your arrogance, your belief that the void would keep us. The void made us stronger. We are not here for diplomacy. We are not here for surrender. We are here for justice. We are here for you." The Requiem tore through the Dominion lines like a blade through glass. Every second, its black lance cannons fired in unison, folding ships in on themselves. Swarms of enemy drones disintegrated in storms of anti-wave bursts. Gravity mines imploded. The Requiem didn't dodge. It dared the enemy to fire. Behind it came the surge of alien survivors. The Krith deployed carriers. The Droka engaged in brutal boarding actions. Athri energy nets bound, fleeing Dominion skiffs mid-flight. In the chaos, Voss led a drop team straight into the command tower of the staging base. Inside, Varkari officers shrieked as the Terrans descended in shadows and silence. Rail's team swept through them with clinical precision. No mercy, no pause. In the control chamber, Voss personally terminated the Dominion field marshal. As he collapsed, gasping in shock, he whispered, "You should not be here." She stared down at him, her voice flat. "We should never have had to be." By the time the Allied forces pulled back, the base was gone. Nothing but a cracked rock floating amid glowing debris. The battle was over. The war was not. But for the first time in decades, there was no fear in the stars. Only vengeance. And the humans were leading it. Deliverance Protocol, Terminal Dawn. The remains of the Varkari Dominion fled into the dark. From shattered moons and burning shipyards, they scattered, retreating toward the old fortified bastion known as Veltraxis, a world wrapped in orbital cannons and black glass fortresses. It was here the Dominion had launched its genocidal campaigns. And it would be here they made their final stand. Captain Lena Voss stood on the bridge of the Obsidian Requiem, eyes locked on the live feed of Veltraxis. The planet bristled with defenses, interlinked AI-controlled railguns, energy harpoons, and the Dominion's dreaded planetary phalanx, a massive space elevator cannon that could vaporize fleets in orbit. Around her, the Abyss fleet prepared for the final operation. "Status report," she said. Reyes glanced up from his station. "All Allied ships in position. Zalari dreadnoughts are reinforcing our flanks. Krith and Droka gunships will punch through the upper hemisphere while we dive through the lower shield layers." "And the protocol?" she asked. Rail looked up from the dark-paneled console beside the ship's core housing. His voice was quiet. "Deliverance Protocol is armed. The Abyss core is stable, barely. We get one shot, one tear." Voss exhaled slowly. The weight of this war pressed against her back, but did not bend her. "Then we end it." Across the void, on the Dominion world, High Strategist Keltor snarled as he watched the Terran fleet form up. "They dare bring their allies to our doorstep? After being swallowed by the rift." He turned to the remaining Dominion War Council. "Fire the phalanx. We'll tear them from the stars." One of his subcommanders, trembling, whispered, "They've already survived the Abyss. What makes you think they fear death?" Keltor growled, "I don't need them to fear. I need them to burn." The battle erupted with all the fury of a collapsing sun. The Obsidian Requiem plunged headfirst into the defensive grid, surrounded by swarms of Athri and Krith vessels. Energy bolts lit the void. Plasma streaked like lightning between clouds. Terran Blacklance beams sliced through Dominion capital ships with pinpoint accuracy, warping space around them as they fired. For every Allied ship lost, 5 Varkari died. But it wasn't enough. The phalanx cannon charged, its massive coils glowing a molten red. It locked onto the Requiem's core. "Captain," Reyes shouted, "they're targeting us with a planetary cannon." Voss didn't flinch. "Initiate the drop. Prepare the protocol." Beneath the bridge, in the heart of the Requiem, the abyss core pulsed violently. Magnetic rings spun around it, struggling to contain the seething storm of dark energy inside. Geometric symbols flared across the chamber's walls, foreign runes from a dead civilization that had never known flesh or mercy. Rael entered the command key. The lights across the ship dimmed. "Deliverance protocol active," he announced. On Voss's command deck, a countdown began. Terminal dawn, 30 seconds to initiation. Below them, Veltraxis spun helplessly. Dominion ships scrambled to intercept. A swarm of drones tore across the atmosphere. Railguns hammered away, tearing apart 2 Krith cruisers. Still, the Requiem did not slow. At 15 seconds, the ship opened a rift behind its stern, an artificial black hole stabilized by its hull geometry. The gravity of the tear pulled thousands of Dominion ships backward, tearing their formations apart. Greater than 10 seconds. Voss's voice rang out over system-wide comms. "This is for Earth, for the colonies you burned, for the stars you tried to silence. This is for every last soul who died alone. This is deliverance." At 0, the Requiem unleashed hell. A thin, violet beam lanced from its core into Veltraxis's crust, then expanded violently outward, triggering a chain reaction that twisted gravity, shattered physics, and ruptured space-time across the upper mantle of the planet. The entire sky tore open. From orbit, Allied ships watched as the very atmosphere ignited in silence. The planetary phalanx cannon folded in on itself, collapsing into a singularity. Massive fortresses broke apart, pulled upward into the tear, and flung into the void. Veltraxis didn't explode. It vanished. One moment a fortress world, the next an echo of light fading behind the rift. The Obsidian Requiem floated in silence as the last Dominion transmissions died into static. Then came the cheers. Across every Allied vessel, voices rose in celebration. Droka beat their chests in thunderous rhythm. The Krith clattered limbs in victory rites. The Athari sang with harmonics that shook the decks. On Xeran Station, Rovek watched the final telemetry. "It's over," he whispered. "They've done it." Someone behind him asked, "What do we call them now?" Rovek looked at the Requiem's silhouette, still as a tombstone against the stars. "We called them human before," he said. "But now—" He turned away. "Now we call them vengeance." Inside the Requiem, Captain Voss stood before the abyss core one final time. Rael approached behind her. "It's stabilized for now." The weapon held. "For now," she echoed. "The others want to know what's next." Voss looked out the viewport into the deep quiet of space. She thought of Earth, of the colonies long dead, of the cost. Then of the voice in the dark that had whispered to them in the abyss, offering survival, offering weapons, offering power. "Now," she said, voice low, "now we watch." She turned toward the bridge. "And when the next empire thinks the stars belong to them, we'll remind them who earned them in fire."